This is Trevor Coppola with Anthony J. Hilder, and we're here interviewing Bill Still. He's done many great movies, The Wall Street Money Masters, Wizard of Oz, Secret of Oz, and Jekyll Island is his new work here. So, how did you first get into all this stuff regarding the New World Order?
Well, I was a managing editor of a newspaper in Northern Virginia, and an old guy called me up one day and said, "Boy, have I got a story for you. There's no gold left in Fort Knox." And I just kind of rolled my eyes, and I developed a way to get crazy people off the phone because they'll take up all your time when you run a newspaper. And so my response was, "That's great, send me something in the mail." And the crazy people never have anything to send because they just have a theory, and the serious people have something to send. And this guy was serious, and so he sent me a big, thick sheaf of papers showing that the federal government had although they're required to do a physical audit annually of the gold reserves in Fort Knox, which was the largest treasure of gold ever collected in the history of the world, 72% of world gold at the end of World War II. One has not been done since, guess when, 1955. So as a newspaper reporter, it was clear the government was hiding something, but I just could not figure out how this all fit into anything. And it took me about 12 years to write my first book on the topic, which was called On the Horns of the Beast, the Federal Reserve and the New World Order. And then an investor read that book and liked it and said, "Let's do a video." And I said, "Okay," and that was The Money Masters, and that's kind of how it started. That was, we filmed it in 1995 and put it out in early 1996.
I've watched that movie many times. I think I have it almost memorized. It's very good work.
No, there's only two answers. There's only two ways to fix this, and that's not gold, it's not silver, it's not any type of basket of commodities. It's to do just two things. Number one, you have to eliminate the ability of the federal government to borrow money, because they borrow primarily from banks. So as long as the government is borrowing from banks, you have the very definition of the term plutocracy. And you cannot possibly have any legislation, effective legislation, come out from Congress when they're borrowing from banks. So, as William Jennings Bryan said, without monetary reform, there can be no reform. And he said that in 1896. So then the second thing we have to do is to eliminate the ability of banks to, in essence, counterfeit U.S. money, and this is the same problem worldwide. It's called the debt money system, where all money is created as an interest-bearing debt by commercial banks, instead of the way it used to be, which all money was issued by the governments, the sovereign, for the benefit of all the people equally. That's what we have to get back to. So number one, forbid the government from borrowing money because they borrow primarily from banks. Number two, forbid banks from practicing fractional reserve lending, which is in essence counterfeiting of the national sovereign money.
So basically, in a sense, it used to be 10 to 1 years ago, then it became 100 to 1, and now is it basically they just can do whatever they want?
No, it's floated all over the place, but right now, in wake of the 2008 debacle, I think they're trying to raise bank reserves requirements to 8 to 1. However, we found out as a result of congressional investigations in 2008 that instead of maintaining the 10 to 1 ratio, banks, J.P. Morgan and Citi were leveraged 52 to 1, Freddie and Fannie were leveraged 80 to 1, and Goldman Sachs was leveraged 333 to 1. So once again, it's a question of is there any effective regulation possible as long as the government is borrowing from banks, and the answer is no. It's all just a giant fake out to make the public think that something effective is being done.
Do you know anything about Bitcoin? What do you think of virtual currency?
I don't like it. It's way too centralized. It's an experiment that's going on, I'll put it that way. If it succeeds and it turns out to be a good thing, okay, but I doubt that that's going to happen. I think it's just an overly centralized deal where the guys who went in early are going to defend it till the end of their days because they got in early. It's just like the gold bugs. You can never convince a guy with a big pile of gold that gold isn't the answer. It's impossible. So I think that's the problem, and it certainly is not a democratized form of money. I don't own any Bitcoins. I don't own any gold. I own silver coins, junk silver coins. But gold has always been the money of the rich, and it's scarce money. And certainly that's the very essence of Bitcoin, is to be scarce money to drive up the price. Well, that certainly does not help. It's not in the public interest. It certainly doesn't help the case of freedom or the case of democracy. It's going to make a few people very wealthy, and already has, but it doesn't serve effectively the public interest.
That makes sense. What is a website that people should go to get your material?
Jekyll, Jekyll, Island-the movie.
Sounds good. Thanks a lot for your time.